start out by saying this, that we sure want to welcome the 8th graders from Overton Middle School to be in our assembly program this morning. We hope that this will be an educational experience for all of you that you'll remember from now on throughout the rest of your life. I'm not going to take a lot of time up here this morning, and I want to get right into the program and introduce the speaker here in just a minute. But before I do that, I want to say I appreciate Trooper Jackie Strode from the Bowling Green Post of the Kentucky State Police for helping organize this. Mr. Strode. This time I want to introduce the speaker that we're going to have today. His name is Pete Collins. Pete has served with the Mississippi Highway Safety Patrol since June of 1972. He currently works out of the Starkville Troop Headquarters, where he serves as Public Affairs Officer and makes his home in Salis, Mississippi. He is a charter member of the prestigious Mississippi Highway Safety Patrol Honor Guard. He's a certified underwater rescue diver and a distinguished marksman. He traveled 150,000 miles throughout America last year, speaking 614 times to over 250,000 people with his unique blend of humor on the highways that make you laugh and tragedies of those same highways that make you cry. In 1984, his program to young people was voted the #1 program of the year in Austin, Texas at the Convention of Fellow State Troopers. In 1985, he was honored by the National Beta Club for his outstanding service to young people. Pete has been speaking, he's presented countless awards in the field of law enforcement and public speaking, but says that his most cherished reward is still being able to wear the uniform of the Mississippi Highway Safety Patrol. He is married, his wife's name is Linda, and he has a son named Jeff, who is 17 years old. At this time, I'll present to you Pete Collins.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have two policies wherever I go. Number one, when I talk, you don't talk. And then when you talk, I won't talk. But out of common courtesy, both of us are not going to talk at the same time. I mean, you get my drift? I mean, see, I can't tell you anything. You already know it all. See, I've got a son that's 17, going on 100. See, Jeff Collins already knows all there is to know about everything. So I can't tell you anything. You think you know what this is, but you don't. I mean, don't say a stick. I mean, this is called a crowd control device. And it's made out of old Bodok wood. It's designed for one purpose and one purpose only. And that's to hit you. I mean, it's got a place that you hold your little hand, and you look at it and tell it's got battle scars on it. I mean, you can hit a fella. See, using this stick, fellas, is like kissing. If you don't know how to kiss her, you just wasting time. Now, girls, if when that old come on to Mississippi and them old boys show you how to love a woman. But you see, this little old stick was designed to do one thing, and that's to hit you so hard that your britches legs will roll up and down like a window shade. But if you hit a fella just right, you have these kids on campus, you know, you've seen these super cool dudes. You can't whoop me. If you do, you'll have to whoop me every time you see me. No, you won't. You hit him just right, he don't look for you anymore. But if you walk up to a fellow about 6'6" and 280 pounds, and you hit him as hard as you can right across the top of the head, and he looks at you and says, "Don't hit me anymore," don't hit him anymore. But you see, this thing here, I could talk half a day about it and not really show you as much as if I used it on somebody. You look big enough. Come in, son. Stand right here. Hi, I'm Lee Cobb. Randy, you know, always remember, ladies and gentlemen, teachers especially, the first thing we learn in law enforcement is you watch someone who won't look you in the eye when you talk to him. If you start talking to an individual and that sucker starts to look down, you watch him. He's got something to hide from him. And then here nowadays, you be very, very careful when you walk up to a man and he says, "Hi." I mean, think about it, fella. Son, don't you move. You can take this little old stick and I can hit him right here. Knock his eyeballs out. I can take this little old stick and hit him right here. And knock his teeth out. Don't laugh, sweetheart. Wait till you learn the French kiss a ball out the teeth. I mean, it's like putting your tongue in a milk jug. Ain't nothing there, bro. But I can take this little old bitty stick. I can burst his spleen. I can tear his intestines loose. I can... What kind of school you running here, sir? You know, my wife is one of these old staunch Southern Baptist girls, you know. If you say Titi, you gonna die and go to hell right then. And my son will come in and he'll take his shirt off and flex his muscles at her. She'll say, "Boy, put your clothes on." He'll say, "Mama, I can't help it. I'm just a sex symbol." She'll say, "What'd you say?" He said, "Mama, I can't help it. The women just desire my body." She said, "Oh God, we've raised a pervert." And I'll have you that way. You're hard-headed, you know it all. But you see, if I take this little old $6 or $7 stick and hit him just right, I can kill him. Because I know how to do it. But if I can't control him with this, I'll just put it down and reach and grab these. Now don't tell me they're handcuffs. Because they're not. These are restraining devices. They're made out of stainless steel. They're about $22. And they're made to fit big old wrists. And little bitty wrists. I don't have to put these around this young man's wrist. I can take this and run it up in his nose. And he'll follow me like a wrecker all the way down the highway. But you see, it's like anything else. If you know how to use it, stick your hands out, son. You see, I have complete control of this young man's life. And all I've got is around his thumb. If he doesn't do just what I tell him to do, I'll pinch his thumb off and he can take it home in his pocket. See, I got control of him. He's big and tough. He could whoop me in a minute out on the highway, but I know how to handle him. See, he'll do, see, all you got to do is say, son, get on your knees. Hard-headed, isn't he? Tough, isn't he? See, his old finger's about to come off, but he's tough. Get on your knees, son. You see what I'm talking about? I got a young'un just like him. Hard-headed. You can't tell him nothing, but folks, listen, when you know how to do it, all you got to do is say, boy, get on your knees. Listen, once you get control of him, did I have you to get up? Once you get control of him, all you got to do is say, come on, son. Get up. Listen, I got control of him. If you don't believe I got control of him, how many of you here would like to see him kiss a Mississippi State trooper? Yeah. We live in the greatest nation on earth. I think we ought to get the vote on it. All of that's in favor of him kissing me signify by saying aye. These are your friends? Any opposed? So I know. No. The ayes have it. Kiss me. Hard-headed, isn't he? Tough, isn't he? Don't want to do it, does he? But once you know how to control him, come into me, boy. You gonna kiss me, you put your arms around me. Kids, I'm not good, but I'm cheap. Think about it. But some of you that I'm talking to right now, so some of you that I'm talking to that's listening to me talk right now, you're a lot tighter than what I'm fixing to tell you than these cuffs could ever hold you. And you don't want to be, but you don't have a whole lot of choice. Because just as sure as God made green apples, just as sure as God made green apples from the corner of this gym right here to the corner right over here, somebody I'm talking to right now will never get to finish high school here because you're going to get killed in a car wreck because of a trunk. Now, everywhere I go, when I make that statement, you're going to have 4, 5, 10% start giggling and laughing. And I'm not foolish enough to believe that all of you's going to listen, because all of you don't have to listen. But 90, 95% of you, you got to listen, kids. You know why? Because one of these days you're going to grow up and get a job. And they're going to pay you with a check. And on this side of your paycheck, you're going to make real good money. But on this bottom right-hand corner, you're not going to bring home as much as you started out with. You know why? Because they're going to take out money that you work for. To take care of this 10% is going to sit here and giggle and laugh and talk and what I'm fixing to say. Now 10%, unless your mother and daddy's got enough money that you'll never have to work as long as you live, or you're going to live off the rest of us. You giggle and laugh, eh? Now, fellas, you go out here and act a fool and be a big shot, make all the girls think you super tough. You get a ticket for DUI. Go ahead. You won't ever get to join the army. You can't even join the army, fellas, ladies. If you get a ticket for DUI anymore, they won't even let you join the army. Now, doggone it, if you can't join the army, what else you can't do? That means you're going to start having to figure out how you're going to live off us. Now, girls, when you fall in love and get ready to get married, you better fall in love more than his body. You better fall in love with his driving record. Before you ever ask him to marry you or him ask to marry you, you better say, let me check your driving record first. Now, funny as it may be, unless you got enough money that you won't ever have to work, you better quit giggling and listen to me. Because when you marry him, you marry his driving record. And if he's got a bad driving record, the Mississippi Highway Patrol can't keep you from acting a fool. The Kentucky State Police can't keep you from acting a fool. You know who's going to bring you to your knees, fellas, ladies? These insurance companies. They fixing to make you have to beg, because when you get a ticket for DUI and your mother and daddy's insurance is notified, you know what they're going to do to your mom and daddy's insurance? They're going to cancel it. Then your poor mom and daddy's going to have to buy a signed risk insurance. And you look right there in that book, I got it from the Mississippi Farm Bureau. They sent me a list the other day. If my son, 17 years old, got a ticket for DUI, my insurance to let him drive, his car would cost me $2,695 a year. If he got 2 DUIs, it would cost me over $5,000 a year to let him drive his car. Now, unless you got enough money that you'll never have to work, you better act a fool and go and pop your whip. If your mom and daddy's going to take care of you, you giggle and laugh, girls. But if you're going to have to work, if you're going to have to start buying gas and oil and tires, you're going to have to buy insurance. And these insurance companies are going to make you walk instead of ride, because you won't be able to afford it, because they're not going to have you. Now, when the United States Army won't take you for having a DUI on your record, what do you think these insurance companies will have? Now, I'm not playing with you. I didn't come here to ask you to marry me. Because see, every time you turn a television on, every time you watch a ball game, somebody runs up to you and says, give me a light. And everybody giggles and laughs. Every day of your life, young people, you get out on your knees and you thank God for the state of Mississippi. I mean, when you get up in the morning, you say, God, thank you for the state of Mississippi. Because if it wasn't for the state of Mississippi, you'd be on the bottom. The state of Mississippi led the nation last year in 4 categories. We had more illegitimate babies born than anywhere else in America. We had more young people killed by drunks than anywhere else. And we led the nation in sexually transmitted diseases. And folks, don't giggle. You wasn't far behind us. This little old can won't cost you but 85 cents, 90 cents. But this little old bitty bent up can has cost more heartaches than you can close your eyes and imagine. This little can's dug more graves, caused more wedding bands to be taken off, caused more little old boys and girls to go to school hungry than any other 85 to 90 cent purchase that you'll ever buy. You know where I got this can? Didn't get it in a store. I've never bought a can of beer in my life. You know why? Because I was raised in it. All my life, all I could ever remember was fussing and fighting and cussing and knocking and drinking all my life. Well, my brothers used to take us kids and hide us underneath the kitchen table when they'd come in drunk. so we wouldn't get in the fight. And I used to say, God, one of these days when I grow up, I won't be in this. And bless Pat, he didn't put me in an occupation where I deal with drunks every day of my life. In 16 years as a state trooper, I've never, ever worked a wreck where somebody was killed that a drunk didn't kill them. We lost 99 high school students last year in the state of Mississippi. I went to a high school and made the statement that I made to you a moment ago. It was 1,800 students, and I said, in a class this size, 3 of your seniors will never graduate. And they laughed at me. Literally laughed when I made that statement. They were punching each other because all the cool dudes were saying, oh, are they crazy, huh? But that night my phone rang at 2 o'clock, and it was a little girl crying so hard I couldn't understand what she was saying. Because you see, while I was in the auditorium talking about drunk driving that afternoon, some of the senior class members was in the office on a mimeograph machine, kicking off tickets to a keg party. All you drink, $3 a head. And on the way home that night, one of those little senior girls was killed by a boy drinking and driving. Before that year was out, 2 of the seniors did die. And folks, if I'm not telling you the truth, may God take my tongue from my mouth. 1 year later, almost to the day, coming home from another party, that same young man that killed that little girl the year before killed another one drunk. Because he's super cool. I got this off the side of the highway. This man took his little old boy and put him in the car, 3 years old. Never locked up a drunk in 16 years, thought he was drunk. Every time you stop a drunk, he's only had 2. And every drunk I've ever seen can drive better than anybody else, talk louder than anybody else. They just a drunk. He took his little old boy and put him in the car and started down the road at 100 miles an hour, wide open. And he lost control, and that little car started to flip. That little fella came out the back window, and the car hit him right here. Down in a ditch of water about 6 inches deep he rolled. Into a ditch that we call the Big Black River. Just an old muddy, nasty river that runs through the state. When I slid up on the scene, his dad was outside the car with his hands on his chin like this, cursing. But his little old boy was lying down in that ditch of water trying to hold his head up so he could breathe. And he pulled mud and grass and water down into his mouth, and he stopped up his air passage, and when I got to him, he was gasping for breath. Now, I didn't read this in a book, didn't watch it on television. I can tell you all about it. You know why? Because I was there. I can still feel that cold Mississippi muddy water running between us as I reached down with my hands and picked up his little old head out of the water. I can still see that old muddy water dripping off of his black curly hair. His little old fists were clenching together like this, gasping for breath. I took these 2 fingers and I pushed in his mouth, and I tried to pull the mud and the grass and the water out so he could breathe. And then I put these lips against his and I tried to breathe my life back into his body, and all of a sudden, kids just like you had taken a switch and flipped off the light. That little old fella's hands came together like this, and he started trembling all over. And then he didn't move anymore. But they don't show you that on television, do they? They don't show you that when a man walks up and says, "Give me a light." They're controlling you just like I controlled this young man. on his knees. The ambulance slid up at the top of the hill. I reached down and picked him up. He wasn't that long. Had on a little pair of green tennis shoes. Little blue jeans, the knees was torn out of them. Had a little t-shirt on, Roy Rogers. And you know, kids, ladies and gentlemen, not a one of those fellows on television says, "I'll help you through it." Not a one of them that walks up to the bar and says, "Give me a ride." Not a one of them was standing there saying, "Officer, is he all right?" I ran past his dad that brought him in the world, and he didn't one time say, "Officer, that's my little boy. Is he all right?" He's drunk. But they don't show you that on television. Please listen to me. I put that little fella down on the cot, and the ambulance went away with the sirens blaring. And his dad right there hadn't moved. I walked over to him and I picked him up and I shook him, and down in that same mud hole where his little old boy just died, I fought for my life. His dad trying to hit me in the face and pull my magnum out at the same time, and I'm trying to hold my magnum in and fight him. And by the grace of God, I got the cuffs on him, and I put him in my patrol unit and took him to the hospital. And I'm standing there with mud and blood all over me, when a little girl that I'd watched grow up ever since she was that tall, she came running through the door and she said, "Mr. Collins, where's Derek?" I said, "Judy, baby, he's dead." "Oh, he can't be dead, Mr. Collins. We just ate supper an hour ago." For 90 cents. Is it worth it? That man filed a lawsuit against me for not giving his son proper medical attention and letting him die. See, you're at the age where you think you're going to live forever. You're at the age, and I'm not fussing, because when I was your age, my mother didn't have enough sense to get out of the rain. But that old gal got pretty smart when I got a little older. You're at the age where you don't care if gas goes to $1,000 a gallon, because you're going to live forever. You don't care if steak goes to $1,000 a pound, because you're never going to die. You're young, you're forever. But I promise you, it was yesterday that I was in high school. It was just yesterday. And now my life's 2/3 gone. So I end my program with these thoughts. 15 seconds after they close that lid on you in a funeral home, everybody at this high school is going to forget your name. Oh, they may put a picture of the annual and say "in memory of," but I promise you they'll forget your name. When I travel across America, folks say, "Pete, why do you do it? What motivates you to travel on your days off across the country?" And I try to make some explanation, but folks, I can't tell you. The only thing I can tell you is that I've watched enough of you die to last me 1,000,000 years. I've attended enough funerals. I've dug enough graves until my job's not fun anymore. But I guess if I could put my finger on any one thing that made me come to this high school today, was a little old red-headed girl, 15 years old. Her name was Patricia. Now, Patricia was in love. Now, how many of you, honestly, and I'm not asking you to talk about puppy love, I'm talking about the kind of love that you never get over. How many of you has ever been in love? I mean the kind of love that if you met them 10 years from now in a grocery store, your little heart would still go pitty-patty, pitty-patty. I mean real love. I remember the first time I ever fell in love. I mean real love now. I thought I'd never get over her. She was so pretty, I'd just sit and stare at her. Oh, listen, I clean out one of my fingernails every day. I change underwear. I dream about what it's like to put my arms around her and hold her. Then I remember when it was her time. She told me it was all over. I knew I'd never get over it because I'd been in love before, but this was real. And I knew my whole world was ending. And I begged her, please don't leave me. And I remember how sweet she was. She reached out and put her arms around me and pulled me real close and kissed me right here. Oh, I didn't wash it for a week. And she took her handkerchief out and wiped the tears from my eyes, and then she reached down and set me up in her lap. Now don't laugh just because she was my first grade school teacher. I loved her. You hear me? I mean love, kids. But you're at the age where when you get hurt in love, you want to get out and drive fast or start drinking and get over it. Listen, don't be hard-headed. Don't try to throw your life away. We had this little old boy at home. You ever been around them? They had more money than they had sense. His mother and daddy gave him a brand new Corvette on his 15th birthday. And within 3 weeks, I'd already written Billy Ray 3 tickets in excess of 100, and his mother and daddy had this big political job, and every time I'd write him a ticket, the judge would tear it up. And I didn't know what to do. And I'd write him, and he'd say, you can't do nothing to me. My mom and daddy will have you fired. And I called this old retired trooper, and I said, what am I going to do? He said, next time you stop, Billy Ray, call me. And the next night I met him at 106 coming right out of town. I stopped him. He didn't run. He just jumped out of the car and put himself on the hood and crossed his legs and said, you can't do nothing to me. And I called this old retired trooper. In a few minutes he drove up kids in an old pickup truck. And he walked over to him, sir, and he reached and grabbed him by the hair of the head and picked him slap up off that truck and knocked him flat on his back. Pop! And Billy Ray said, you can't do this to me, my daddy will sue you. That old man said he can't get nothing. He reached down and grabbed him. Now kids, he walked over to that little boy, to my patrol car, and he opened the back window. And he rolled it down. And then he took Billy Ray's head and he stuck it in that window. And then he rolled it back up. Now listen to me. Can you picture this little old boy standing outside of my patrol car with his head rolled up in my window? And that old retired trooper walked around and sat down underneath the steering wheel and cranked up that big old Ford. And he said, now, Billy Ray, we fixed to go to sale barn, son, in about 100. If you can stay up with me, hang in there, okay? But if you think you can start driving like you somebody and act like you got a little sense, you holler and I'll slow down. And folks, he put that thing in gear, and I said, oh God, they're going to sue me and put me in the penitentiary. You could have heard those squalling tires and Billy Ray squalling above those tires, but you know, I never wrote Billy Ray Hankins another ticket as long as he lived in that community. That little old boy finished the Baptist seminary last year. He's a Baptist preacher today. Kids, listen to me. You're hard-headed. You think you're going to live forever, but I promise you, act a fool if you will, and come home. Drink that beer. Get out here and ride these streets and be cool. One night, just as the sun began to go down behind a pine tree, Patricia was going to see her boyfriend. They got into a little old green Toyota Corolla pickup. down the road they went. I don't know what they were doing, but I do know that eyewitness said that when that pickup hit that little Toyota, it knocked it straight up in the air. Because you see, fellas, when they were going south to the football game to see Patricia's boyfriend, two brothers were drinking, and they were drunk, and they was coming north at 100 miles an hour. And they hit them head on. And when I got there was kids all over the highway. I ran up to a lady who had a little girl in her arms, and she said, "Mister, we're all right, but you better go look in that little green car." I went past this Ford pickup, and the engine had been completely knocked out of it, and the driver was still behind the steering wheel with one little scratch right here. Didn't even require stitches, and he's cursing because he can't crank his truck and drive away. He'd already been arrested 3 times for drunk driving. He was drunk that night, and I got him 2 weeks later drinking and driving on the same highway. But right over in that little car was what was left of a man and his wife's whole world. Now, you don't understand what I'm fixing to tell you now, but one day you will. I ran over and crawled down into that little old car, and Patricia looked up at me with those big old eyes, and I crawled down and took my handkerchief out, and I brushed the tears and the glass out of her eyes so she could breathe and see. And she looked up at me, and that little bottom lip started quivering, and she said, "Mister, what happened?" I said, "Baby, you have a little problem, but I'll get you out." She said, "Where's my Bubba?" I said, "Baby, you be real still. Pete'll get you out." And I reached down and picked her up, and when I did, I realized that from her waist down, she was pinned and I couldn't move her. And I knew I had to go get some help, so I tried to wiggle back out. And she reached up and grabbed me on the shoulder, and she said, "Mister, where are you going?" I said, "Darling, I'm going to go over here and get her some help, and I'll be right back, okay?" She said, "I'm scared." I said, "Baby, God loves you and I love you. I'll get you out." And I kissed my finger, and I put it on her lips. And I started to slide back out of that old car to go call for some help. And what she said to me changed my life forever. And I guess that's why I'm right here today. She said, "Mister?" I said, "What, baby?" She said, "Am I fixing to die?" I said, "Baby, I won't let you die." She said, "Promise me?" I said, "I promise." When I came back, those big old beautiful eyes were staring off into space. I crawled down in the car and I said, "Baby, don't give up. They on their way. They're coming, okay?" She went out into eternity, 15 years old. I didn't even know her name. Now, kids, one day God's going to give you the greatest blessing of mankind. You're going to have a little baby. And ladies, you're going to take him down to Walmart and get his picture made. You're going to put little dresses on them and comb their hair. And fellas, you're going to teach them how to pitch the ball. And even, believe me, honestly, fellas, you're going to learn how to change dirty diapers. Now, you kids don't have any fun about it anymore because, see, the dirty diapers now, you just put them on and take them off and chunk them away. But when Jeff Collins came in the world, you had to wash him things out. And his mama put me in charge one day. And I could change those wet diapers, fellas. Don't giggle. One day you're going to have it. I could change those wet diapers, but those others I had problems with. And put him on the bed. And I took a new diaper and I took home plate and I put it on second base. And I took the powder and I put it on the pitcher's mound and I got me a wet bath rag. I didn't know why, but I know why now. And I put the pins, listen, you put the pins right here. So I put him down on the bed, I got one pin off, and the secret of it is, fellas, don't never look down. I looked down and I said, oh God. Gerber never intended for what was in those bottles to come out like this. I said, oh God. I said, I'm so sick. I ran in the bathroom and I was going, and I came back and he was rolling all over the bed. He had it up his nose. And see, look at you, you're laughing. And you're going to have that. And when I tell my son that now, he says, Daddy, shut up. But that's part of being a daddy, see? That's part of loving him. And one of these days, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have all these joys. And one night, that state trooper sitting over there is going to walk up to your door in the middle of the night. And all these beer commercials are not going to be funny anymore. See, he looks like he just sits there and just a picture of thing. Folks, he's got memories that he don't ever want you to know about. You look at his face and he can tell you more about blood and guts and heartache and tears than you can dream about. I walked up on more doors and knocked and listened inside. Hello, who is it? State police. Who is it? Oh God, what's wrong? Till my heart's broken. I don't want to go home anymore. I walked up that night and the 3 kids, now all they had. I walked up on the porch and I could see them. They was drinking a glass of tea, watching television. I knocked on the door and the man pulled up his overalls and walked to the door and opened it. And he just saw that old state police uniform. He looked at me. He said, hey, son, come on in. Mama, get up and fix this boy something to eat. But ladies, you're going to understand, it's just something about mamas. Mamas can see millions of miles through brick walls. I watched that lady's hands start to tremble as she put them in her lap. And she looked up at me and said, son, which one of my babies is hurt? I said, all 3. She said, is it bad? I said, yes, ma'am. Her husband walked over and put his arm around her and they both started trembling. She said, they're not coming back, are they? No, ma'am. But they don't show you that on television, kids. So the next time the man on television walks up and says, give me a light. You remember the Pete Collins said one day from the corner of this room right here, that little old slogan is going to bring heartache to this community. Seniors, I challenge every one of you to live. Don't you go out here in graduation and get killed. We lost 13 in our state last year during graduation. We lost 7 coming home from junior, senior proms. They thought they was going to live forever. So my problem is your problem. I want you to live. I want you to be happy. I want you to grow up and have all the blessings of life. I want you to have children. And I want my son to grow up and have grandchildren so I can play with them. Listen, and you know what I want more than anything else, ladies? I want him to get married. And I want him to have a house. And then I want to go and move in with him. And then I want to leave my dirty underwear right in the middle of his kitchen table. And I want to turn my radio up so loud that he can't sleep. And I I want to walk through his house room and his bedroom when he's trying to sleep, and I want to go say, Daddy, give me $10 and never bring him change back. I want him to send him to the store and stay gone 3 hours instead of 1 hour. I want to run him crazy like he's ran me crazy. But I want y'all to live. I want him to just make it over this hump that he knows everything. And I want you to do it. Then you'll forget me and I'll never see you again. As school year goes on, you'll have different speakers come in and you'll forget all about Pete Collins. But if you remember one thing I'll leave you with, then my life will be worth living. Ladies and gentlemen, every day that you live on earth, every time you come in this gymnasium, every time you go to a ball game, and you look up and see that flag hanging from that roof, you thank God that you live in the greatest nation on earth. You thank God that that old flag is hanging, because see, as long as that thing hangs up there, fellas, you can wear your hair any way you want to wear it. Ladies, as long as that flag's hanging there, you can wear the slouchiest clothes you want to wear. Because you're free. I've watched them take that flag on college campuses and watched them take it off the pole and stomp it down in the mud. And that doesn't mean a thing to you because you don't understand it, but I've watched them come off helicopters with their eyes blown out so me and you can sit here free. And I watched them come home in a box with fellas walking beside them. Keep that old flag hanging up there so you can sit here in Kentucky free. So you better thank God we live in America instead of living in Vietnam or Laos or Cambodia or Lebanon or Iran or Iraq. You live in America, kids. Don't throw your life away on a can of beer. Don't get out here on the highway driving and acting a fool. Be happy. Love. Live. So I can come back 10 years from now and let you tell me, boy, I wish my boy behaved. I wish my little girl would listen to me. Because it's going to be so fun when you start trying to raise them. God bless you, and may every dream you dream come true. Thank you.
I'm not going to try to say another word to add anything to what he said because I couldn't do it if I wanted to, except amen to everything he said. I hope it sinks in. I'm glad you folks got to come and listen to it too. I'm going to let the high school students leave.